You've likely heard that self-discipline is a battle, a constant war waged against your own impulses with brute force and willpower. But what if this entire concept is flawed? This video will not offer you motivational hacks or secrets to crush your laziness. Instead, we will explore a quiet, more intelligent framework for building self-discipline, based on practical psychology and system design, not on sheer, exhausting effort. This subject is profoundly relevant because the struggle for consistency is universal. Whether it's for health, career, or personal growth, the gap between our intentions and our actions is a source of immense frustration. Understanding the mechanics of self-discipline allows you to work with your human nature, not against it, creating sustainable progress without the constant feeling of internal conflict and subsequent burnout that many people experience. Over the next few minutes, we will deconstruct the myth of willpower and present 5 specific, actionable steps. You will learn how to define your focus, architect your environment, create intelligent friction, plan for obstacles, and observe your own mind without judgment. There are no guaranteed results, only a process that, when applied consistently, can yield significant and lasting changes in your behavior and focus. My approach is built upon years of synthesizing research in behavioral psychology. Habit formation and mindfulness, coupled with practical application and observation of what truly works outside a laboratory. I'm not a guru, but a guide here to present a map. The journey, however, must be your own. If you're ready for a different perspective on personal development, consider subscribing for more content like this. This entire framework rests on a fundamental misunderstanding most of us have about the very energy we use to make decisions. We treat it as an infinite wellspring, when in reality, it behaves more like a resource that depletes with every choice we make throughout the day. To truly understand self-discipline, we must first understand the nature of this hidden cognitive currency. The energy you use for self-control, often called willpower, is not an abstract moral virtue. Research, such as the initial work by Roy Baumeister on ego depletion, suggests it functions like a finite cognitive resource. Every decision, from choosing your breakfast to resisting a distraction, draws from this same limited pool. This explains why you might find it easier to avoid dessert after a relaxing day than after a stressful one. Think of your daily willpower as a battery. It starts fully charged in the morning, but each act of regulation, managing emotions, focusing on a hard task, or making complex choices, drains it incrementally. By the evening, this battery is often low, which is precisely when we are most susceptible to breaking our resolutions. The brute force method of self-discipline is an attempt to run on an empty battery. However, it is crucial to note that the concept of ego depletion is a topic of ongoing debate within psychology, with some studies failing to replicate the original findings. A more holistic view suggests that factors like belief, motivation, and blood glucose levels also play a significant role. Your belief about whether your willpower is limited or not can, in itself, affect your performance and your ability to persevere. An effective analogy is that of a skilled sailor. A novice sailor might try to fight the wind directly, exhausting themselves in a futile battle against the elements. The expert sailor, however, understands the nature of the wind. They don't fight it. They adjust their sails to harness its power, moving effortlessly towards their destination. This is the core of intelligent self-discipline. If our personal energy for control is indeed finite and easily influenced, then relying on it alone is a strategy destined for failure. The logical question then becomes, how do we build systems that achieve our goals without requiring a constant draining exertion of this precious and unreliable resource? The answer lies not in more effort, but in better design. The primary method involves shifting your focus from internal struggle to external structure. This is a 5-pillar system. The first pillar is clarity. defining a single, laughably small action, a micro-habit that moves you towards your goal. The second is environment, shaping your physical and digital spaces to make that action the path of least resistance. This is where the real work of self-discipline happens. For instance, if your goal is to read more, the micro-habit isn't read for an hour. It's read one page. You then apply the second pillar, environment, by placing the book on your pillow. When you go to bed, the easiest action is to pick it up and read that single page. You are not relying on motivation. You are relying on a well-designed, frictionless system that prompts the desired behavior. The third pillar is friction, which is the inverse of the second. You must make undesirable actions more difficult. The fourth is pre-commitment, using if-then plans to decide in advance how you'll handle predictable obstacles or temptations. The final pillar is detached observation, learning to notice urges and impulses without needing to act on them, a skill honed through mindfulness practices. It's important to be transparent about limitations. This system is not a cure for clinical conditions like severe depression or ADHD, which can fundamentally impact executive function. It is a behavioral framework for those with the baseline capacity for self-regulation who wish to apply it more effectively. If you suspect a deeper issue, consulting a professional is the appropriate first step. This strategic approach transforms self-discipline from a matter of willpower to a matter of engineering. It's a subtle but profound shift in perspective. But to truly grasp its power, we must examine the first two pillars more closely, as they form the unshakable foundation upon which all consistent action is built. Let's explore why starting small is so neurologically significant. The first pillar, defining a micro-habit, is rooted in neuroscience. Large, ambitious goals trigger the amygdala, the brain's fear center, which can lead to procrastination and paralysis. A goal as small as do one push-up or write one sentence is so non-threatening that it bypasses this fear response entirely, allowing you to begin building momentum without internal resistance. Consistency is far more important than intensity at the start. Once your micro-habit is defined, the second pillar, environmental design, takes over. You must understand that you are less a product of your decisions and more a product of your environment. Your space is not a neutral backdrop. It is an active participant in your behavior, filled with cues that either prompt or prevent certain actions. Your discipline is determined by what is within your arm's reach. To design your environment effectively, you must increase the visibility of cues for good habits and decrease them for bad ones. If you want to drink more water, leave a bottle on your desk. If you want to check your phone less, move it to another room. Each adjustment is a silent instruction to your future self, making the right choice the easy, almost automatic choice when your motivation is low. This principle extends to your digital world. Unsubscribe from distracting email lists. Use apps that block time-wasting websites during work hours. Curate your social media feeds to show you content that inspires and educates, not that which drains your attention. You are the architect of your digital consumption, and a clean, focused environment here is just as critical as your physical one. With a clearly defined small step and an environment engineered for success, you have laid the groundwork. You've removed the initial friction to starting and made the action almost inevitable. But what happens when the internal world fights back? How do you handle the inevitable urges and old patterns that will still arise even in the most perfect of settings? The practical application begins now. Choose one and only one area you wish to improve. Define a 2-minute version of that habit. If you want to exercise, your habit is to put on your workout clothes. That is it. Tonight, lay those clothes out before you go to sleep. This is your first act of environmental design. Commit to this tiny action for 1 week. For those interested in exploring these concepts further, I highly recommend the book Atomic Habits by James Clear, which provides an exhaustive guide to this methodology. Another excellent resource is Tiny Habits by B.J. Fogg from Stanford University, who pioneered much of the research on this specific approach. These are not affiliate links, simply foundational texts on the subject. Be realistic about your expectations. You will not transform your life overnight. The goal here is not a dramatic burst of activity, but the slow, almost invisible accumulation of 1% improvements. Progress will be non-linear. Some weeks will be better than others. The true measure of success is not perfection, but your ability to get back on track quickly after a misstep, without shame or judgment. To make this practical, I invite you to share the one micro-habit you're committing to in the comments below. This simple act of writing it down can increase your commitment, and reading others' ideas can provide inspiration. What is the one small step you will take? By sharing, you contribute to a community focused on intentional action rather than passive consumption. Ultimately, this redefines self-discipline. It is not about being a stern general, whipping yourself into shape. It is about being a compassionate architect, intelligently and kindly designing a world where your desired self can flourish naturally.